Have you ever had your emotions take over, where it feels like they've taken you out of the driver's seat and thrown you into the back of your car, probably in the trunk, so that they decide where to drive and you have no control of what's going on? Well, if you have, stay tuned. I'm going to show you a few emotional crisis management tools. Hey everyone, you and your emotions are a team, kind of like when you're driving a vehicle. Imagine that you are driving in the driver's seat and your emotions right alongside you in the passenger seat, and they're kind of controlling Apple Maps and Google Maps, and they'll suggest a few routes to go along the way. They'll also point out hazards that you might need to look out for on the roads. They'll point you in directions when you need to take a U-turn if you've gone the wrong way. But sometimes, if you've gone through a lot of overwhelming things, you just have too much in life that's building up, you've gone through a lot of trauma, a lot of stress, a lot of things, especially with COVID, kind of just piling in, work, home, personal, social, everything just kind of gets combined together, clashing at once. It can be quite overwhelming to take on all that. And what you might notice is emotions in the passenger seat will say, hey, I'm taking over, and they kick you out of the driver's seat, put you in the trunk, and they take you for a ride. They decide where they're going, how fast they're going. They're not pumping the brake and regulating it. They're just pushing full hard on the acceleration. And this can look like being overwhelmed with anger, for example, and you doing something or saying something that you typically wouldn't do if you're feeling a bit more calm and rational. Or maybe if you're feeling, for example, anxious, you're just so debilitated, you actually are just not able to really do anything. You may be sitting there very calm on the outside, but on the inside, there's so much going on, so much angst and anxiety happening. Now, this response with our emotions can happen so quickly sometimes, where they can hijack our ability to steer in the direction we want to. And this might cause our body to go into a fight or flight reaction. So I want to introduce a skill for emotional emergency de-escalation so that we can return ourselves back to the driver's seat, feeling a bit more calm and grounded. This skill comes from a therapy called Dialectical Behavioural Therapy, some of you might have heard of, or DBT for short, which is humongous on working on emotional regulation. Now, before you try this, you must be aware that if you have a heart condition, a lowered base heart rate due to medications, take a beta blocker, or are allergic to cold, or have an eating disorder, you need to consult with your healthcare provider or your doctor, preferably, before you start using these exercises. So let's dive right in. So this exercise is called TIPP, T-I-P-P. And I like this acronym because it's really helpful for reminding ourselves of the skills that are involved within it. So the T stands for temperature. When we're experiencing a high level of emotion, our bodies can feel very hot with heat. You might notice, sweating, increased heart rate, that's increasing the amount of energy our body's holding. So naturally, an opposite reaction to that might be using something cool to help slow down our body and our nervous system. There's a few ways we can do this. One would be by using ice. If we take ice and place it on our palm, a few cubes, or maybe you take ice and you rub it up and down your wrist. This can be very helpful for our senses to be really hyper-focused on that and slow down whatever the emotions are that we might be experiencing. Alternatively, if you don't have access to ice, you can just turn the water on as cold as you can, get your hands in there, feel the water on your hands. Fill your hands with water and then splash your face with that water as well several times. Can be really helpful. Some people like to take cold showers. That can be really helpful when we're feeling overwhelmed as well. That might be more person dependent though. Alternatively, what you can also do is take the ice cube and place it on your face, right below your eye, on this little soft fleshy part above your cheekbone, and hold it there for about 30 seconds. You can put it on both eyes. You can also dunk your head in cold water. So if you fill a bowl of water, put a few ice cubes in it, you can put your head in there, and that can really help slow down our system. Now you want to hold for about 30 seconds and make sure that the water is above 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 degrees Celsius. This reflex causes your body's chemistry to change, affecting your heart rate and slowing it down, and kicking in your parasympathetic nervous system, which is our system that helps us rest and digest. Now the second letter is I, which stands for intense exercise. So what you can do, it might not always be feasible depending on where you're at, especially if you're at the office or at work or something. But if you're not, and you're at home, and let's say you're having a real heated discussion with a partner, or you're really struggling, our body, again, holds a lot of that energy, and exercise can help release some of the tension that we're holding and release endorphins, which are the hormones that help us reduce our perception of pain, as well as increasing a positive feeling in our body. A few ways you can do this, well, there's multiple actually, is 1, running. Get outside, run around the block, run to the end and run back as fast as you can. 2, go for a fast walk if running's not in your repertoire. Another one might be go down, try to do a few push-ups. Even if you can't do a few push-ups, try your best because you're going to exert some energy in your body. Another one might be do a bunch of jumping jacks, do some sit-ups, get your body moving really quick. And you don't have to do it for a long period of time. Just do it fast and short. Of course, be careful and mindful of trying not to hurt yourself as you do it, but some of this can be really effective in the moment when our emotions are extremely high. The third skill, which is the first P, stands for paced breathing. When we work with our breath, we directly affect our nervous system to slow down how we're feeling. Again, we tune into the parasympathetic nervous system. Ideally, what you'll want to be doing is paying attention to your inhales and exhales. And you really want to be focusing on trying to lengthen your exhales. So for example, you might inhale for a count of 4 and then try to exhale for a count of 5 or 6 or 7 or longer. Of course, if you're having a tough time exhaling for longer, just start with 4 seconds inhale, 4 seconds exhale, and then continue to lengthen your breath. You can do it as many times as you need in the moment. 1 time, 2 times, 10 times or more. The goal is to slow down our breath so much that you can notice you're taking about 5 to 6 breaths per minute, which will really affect our parasympathetic nervous system and slow down our heart rate, tension in our body, breathing, and we'll feel a bit more calm and connected. Now, if you want to, you can check out the above link, which links you to a further detailed breathwork exercise that I guide you through. And it has a bit more explanation on some of the breathwork. Now, the last P stands for progressive muscle relaxation. This exercise directly targets the tension in your muscle groups, starting at one end of the body and moving to the other. For example, you might start with your toes and then slowly move up towards your head. And as you do, you'll start by tensing areas. For example, maybe you're gonna press your toes into the ground for 5 seconds and then release that tension for 5 seconds, and then slowly do that all the way up your body. So tensing your calves and your thighs and then releasing them, and so on and so forth as you move upwards. And this can directly help by feeling the tension that your body's holding and then being intentional and releasing that tension as well. Now, progressive muscle relaxation, this step can be quite long or it can be quite short. You might already feel really calm if you use all the other skills within the tip. However, if not, and you want to do a lengthier progressive muscle relaxation, you can really take your time focusing on each muscle group, about 5 seconds at a time for tensing and then releasing. Check out the above video for a longer progressive muscle relaxation. It runs about 16-17 minutes. I talk a little bit more about progressive muscle relaxation, and I guide you through a very step-by-step detail of toe to head in relaxing the body. So that's it. Tip, T-I-P-P. Remember this, remember what they stand for. Maybe you need to watch this a few times over. Give it a go, give it a practice, especially when you're not already heightened, because sometimes if you're already heightened, you might forget, what was it that Kyle was showing me? It probably goes out the window because emotion is in the front seat, you're in the trunk trying to get out. And thinking can be really hard in those moments. So practice some of these skills, find what works for you to remind yourself. Maybe you put it down on a sticky note or write it in your phone. Maybe you write down TIPP. I mean, if you're worried, for example, that someone else might see it, a lot of other people might not know what tip means when you write down TIPP, so it could be something that just jogs your memory into practicing this exercise. So I invite you to check this out and let me know in the comments below what worked, what didn't work. Maybe you added another little variation here or something that you thought would be helpful and was really awesome. Or maybe you had some questions or comments about what you liked or didn't like. So write it in there. And finally, now that you have some emergency emotional regulation skills, I'd invite you to check out a few playlists I have for other regulating tools that work with our body and kind of slowing it down, keeping it in that calming vagus nerve, or ventral vagus nerve, which is our calming system to be more specific. And the more we get to do that, the more we get to work with our body and our nervous system and be an active participant rather than being thrown into the trunk, and we can drive our car with our friend of emotions in the passenger seat, helping us along the way, but not taking over. So thank you so much for checking out this video today. I hope something that you saw was helpful. Take the best of care, and I'll see you in the next one.